Okay, NAVJIVAN.
Yes.
Okay, what does it mean?
So NAVJIVAN means new life.
New life.
New life.
And how do you define life?
Life is anything which we can feel or sense. Means I think there can be no definition of life, because life for person to person depends. If suppose an animal, for animal the meaning of life might be different. For a person, the meaning of life for me as of now is different. For students, for farmers, for teachers, for everyone, the meaning of life depends. And
what
at what
is that
stage
for you?
At this stage of life, life means what I am doing now, just talking with you and enjoying the life.
So, existence, you mean to say?
It can be said existence.
Okay. See, Supreme Court of India, in one of the landmark cases, defined life in a very broader manner. Have you read about that?
No sir, I haven't.
No. It was a Maneka Gandhi case, which court came up with something called as, it is not just to ensure survival or existence, but life in Indian context should be right to have a dignified life.
Yes.
In which it included more than 20 rights. For example, right to education, right to have pollution free air, so and so forth.
Yes.
Okay, clean drinking water.
Yes.
Okay. If I ask you to define dignified life, what would that mean for you?
Dignified life, I can say, when I get to enjoy my rights, means I can see myself as a human,
Okay.
where I can stand in front of my eyes and I am not ashamed of myself. That I can say is a dignified life.
Okay. And do you think that our society in general and members of society, that is our society, are living that life? Or only few people are living dignified life and most of us are not?
I like to go with that view that many of the people are not living dignified life. Go with that view that many of the people are not living dignified life. Actually, when I came here for interview, below the bridge I saw many people begging. They were sleeping on the road. Where above the bridge life was shining, below the bridge they were shedding tears.
Okay.
So
why do we have that dichotomy?
Sir, dichotomy, it depends upon the social structure of our society, where they are also victims of inequality. This inequality, it can be said because India is, in some cases we can say it is due to poverty. And this poverty, I would broadly like to say, it has three reasons. Because India is poor, India is rich, yet India is poor, and as British were rich, that's why India is poor. In these three lines, I would like to summarize that.
No, why do we have poverty and inequality?
Sir, poverty exists because, first of all, India is rich, as India is poor. Here I want to say that we are rich in demographic dividend, but we are not able to utilize it. That is one reason of poverty. Then one reason...
No, demographic dividend is a recent phenomenon. It's not that we have poverty recently or in recent past.
That historical roots also are existing in this poverty.
Even if we focus from 47 onwards, let us say.
47 onwards. Sir, when we got independence, at that time our condition was not, we can say that India was a hungry nation. We were not able to fulfill our stomach. From that we made...
Okay, fine, let us make it very simple. Do you think that colonial regime in India was responsible for poverty?
Yes sir.
In what way?
Sir, because during colonial regime, our resources were exploited.
Okay.
The economic foundation of our country, that is small countries, tradition.
What is the single most contribution by the colonial regime to Indian society?
The idea of nationalism, that India is a nation. I think that is the main contribution of British and Indian society.
Nationalism.
Yes.
And what is that?
Sir, if we see before British, India was a land of many nations, like Maratha nation, Punjabi, Jats. All people were living differently, but there was no single common thread which was binding people together. But as British came together, their exploitation, then it gave.
Have you studied as part of your subject the terms such as nationality,
Yes, sir.
nation,
Yes, sir.
nationalism? You must have studied
Yes,
that.
sir.
So what is the difference between nationality and nation?
Sir, nation is a psychological concept which we can say that people from a particular region with common historical, cultural, political, social background with they feel that we belong to each other. And nationality is that feeling that we are like suppose a nation India. Now here when I am sitting here, when many people come to me, I feel that we are Indian. But when I go outside in American country, where if I met a fellow Indian, he is from another state, then that feeling is Indian. That is, I am Indian nation. And when I say that nationality, the feeling of Indianness, it is the sensation. Like suppose if we are playing India-Pakistan cricket match, and at that time, when the feeling which is enjoyed by all the Indian crowd against the Pakistanis, the feeling which we have, it is
India a nation state?
Sir, I would like to say India is a.
Have you read something about as part of your sociology? That is optional. Benedict Anderson. Benedict Anderson.
No, sir.
No, you
I
haven't.
haven't read it.
Okay. See, Max Weber, a German sociologist, contributed to sociology in a very important way. So what is that?
Sir, Max Weber for sociology, he settled the debate, means he tried to settle the debate between his sociology of science and his sociology distinct discipline, where sociology as a discipline, it was moving to blindly adopting the scientific procedures in sociology. He tried to relate sociology with those disciplines and also the ground reality. So he, by giving the concept of ideal type, he tried to explain the sociology. He said,
Ideal type, what is that?
sir, ideal type is a theoretical tool for which we can, which a sociologist or a researcher can construct, so that he can proceed for collecting data. He can do research in society. For example, ideal type on religion, which was constructed by Max Weber to study. So he constructed mental idea that religions can be classified with relation to capitalism. Then he classified them.
Weber cited out bureaucracy as an example of ideal type.
Yes, sir. Bureaucracy in this bureaucracy, Weber tried to define it. As bureaucracy till then was a loosely defined concept, so he tried to define it, and he also differentiated different types of bureaucracy, like in traditional bureaucracy, then modern bureaucracy, then how the modern bureaucracy is based on rules, it is legal, and the rational procedures are followed in objective manner.
So, NAVJIVAN, if I ask you to describe Indian society, how would you do that?
Sir?
Is Indian society a modern society or a traditional society? What kind of society?
Sir, I would like to say there is no or in between whether India is traditional or modern. I would like to say India is at the junction of tradition and modernity, where we meet tradition and modernity at both the places. For which I could explain with my example that I am traditional as well as modern, wearing this suit, tie, coat, boot. I feel that I am in material wise, I am getting modern. But when I try to go to the cultural beliefs, before coming here, I had a talk with my father. That I could relate that traditional values, that before in Indian society we respect some elders. So a person in India is simultaneously traditional and modern. This I could also relate with another example.
Is it so simple?
Mhm.
Is it so simple?
Sir, we can say that there are multiple views. From my perspective,
See, did you mean to say that Indian society is characterized by coexistence of tradition and modernity?
Yes, sir.
Is it so? Do you mean to suggest that?
Sir, I would like to slightly modify it, that Indian society is characterized by coexistence of tradition and modernity. There is also conflict between tradition and modernity.
How can you define the modernity? Can you define it?
Sir, modernity can be defined in shift in, first of all, values. Aesthetic values, like first of all there were collectivism, where any ideas or groups which were talking, they were taken in collective values. Like suppose caste council, a person belonging to that council would follow only the caste values. But today there are modern values like liberty, individuality.
Nationalism is a kind of collectivism.
It's a kind of collectivism. Nation is a collectivism. So, collectivism at a expanded level. So can you call it as a modern? Nation idea itself is a collective idea.
Yes, sir.
So how can you call it as a modern?
Sir, nation as modern or tradition, I am not able to understand. But here, what I am trying to say that when we are trying to judge anything as modern, it can be judged on three pillars, whether it is value, technology, and institutions. Value-wise, if we say nation was present in traditional era also, now also. At that time, suppose Jhansi ki Rani, that Jhansi was a nation for them. But today, the nation idea of nation has broadened. But values have changed. First of all, there were landed aristocratic values. Now today we are striving for liberty. The clash between two values is the Sabrimala event. When I try to see technology, the technologies are modern. The mobile which we carry, at that time there were no means of communication. People used to communicate through mouth to mouth. Then if you go to institutions, institutions have also modernized because during that
Can
time...
you stress more on values? How
Sir.
modern and ancient society or traditional society value system, how it is different? From which period you can say modernity started? Can you just...
Sir, there is a debate on that point from which period we can say that modernity started, because in human history we can say it is so diverse that we cannot say that this particular point modernity began. But for our study purpose in sociology, study, we can say that the emergence of modernity was seen in French Revolution in Western society. But in Indian society, this is a continuous phase, which we can also say it began from Bhakti reform movements. Then it was also seen in India during social reform issues, where people started to follow modern values.
What is the difference between modernity and postmodernity?
Sir, in modernity and postmodernity are two schools of thought in sociology, where at that time in Western society, where due to aristocracy and another nepotism.
No, just explain me in terms of value system, ancient value system, modern value system, and postmodern value system. How three value systems are different?
Sir, here I would like to use the concept of Talcott Parsons, that first of all there are ascriptive values in ancient society. In modern society there are achievement oriented values. And the basic of modernism and postmodernity is that modernity is believed, that school of thought believes that modernity will solve all our problems and it is made for good. But in postmodern society, it tries to look back at modernity and says that modernity is not always good, it also has some bad effects. So here, if I would have to differentiate between the values, like in past society, ancient society, it was ascriptive based. Suppose in India, if I am born, my punishments, what will be the position of my work, it will depend on my ascription. That is the identity which I get at birth, which was supposed for at that time caste. But today in this society, modern society, we can say achievement orientation, where a position, status, honor, it also depends upon what the person have achieved in his personal life. So today we can say the merit-based society, when we are striving for marks to getting in certain position. This is we call modern values. And in postmodern society, we try to look at the fact that modernity has not always done good. For example, industrial revolution. It was seen during modern theories that it will solve all the problems, our material life will increase, we will get much pleasure. But today postmodern school of thought thinks that our zeal to achieve industrialization, modernization, it has also harmed the planet, climate change.
Was Savarkar's value system was modern or postmodern or ancient?
Sir, I have not read in detail about Savarkar, but as I have glance, means I have just bird's eye view Savarkar, so I would not like to classify whether he was traditional or modern, so I am not in that position to comment on it.
Okay, what was the view of Jürgen Habermas regarding modernity?
Habermas. Sir, I am not actually able to recall it, but I would like to try.
Okay.
Sir, Habermas was a critical thinker. So he was, means in that modernity, he was believing that this modernity is class-based modernity, and it was through state. And in this modern society, through controlling the media, power, etc., the state was entering into private domain of individuals also. As Habermas was he was a great proponent of homosexuality. So using the concept of homosexuality, he tried to define on modernity that in modern society, the state has become so much perpetuous that it has entered into private domain also, where the most private thing about my sexual orientation is decided on the view of state, on the view of society. So he was a bit critical about modernity and how the modern forces like modern institutions like state, they use to gratify their class interest through this.
Do you support the Supreme Court judgment on 377?
Yes, sir. I absolutely support that Supreme Court judgment on 377. And in fact, this section 377 judgment shows that India is also modernizing because the old values are being challenged by new modern values of individualism, liberty, where sexuality, which was considered as taboo, and that individual, where the life of that homosexual was not considered, of that person was not considered as a human being. Today, that person has got dignity, and today that person has also got power that he can openly say that yeah, I am such belonging to this category of people. I can freely express it. So I am in support of that view.
Okay, just to continue one question from other panel member. What is the epistemological basis of modernism and postmodernism?
Sir, if epistemology means gathering the source of knowledge,
It is science of knowledge. Let's make it very
it is
simple.
science of knowledge. So basis of modernism and postmodernism. Sir, when modernity when modern school of thought developed, it was based mostly upon imagination. And early sociologists who developed this school of thought, they were mostly philosophers. Like in initial stage of their work, they were philosophers. Like Durkheim is called as social priest. So his epistemological were to solve the problems of society. And as the society at that time was in transition from feudalism to monarchical state to democracy, there were many problems, and society till then had never witnessed such drastic change. So modernism, their epistemological thought were mostly at the beginning was imagination. Like if we can say Auguste Comte or Emile Durkheim, they have predicted that complex society. Auguste Comte had that theosophical society will be taken by scientific society. Most of their from observation they had developed their imagination. But if we see postmodernist school, their epistemological source is that they have actually experienced what modernity was, because it developed after a few while in later era. So they experienced the changes in society, and by observing that, they saw that modernity is not always good. So their source
Okay,
was
let's make it simple. Can you tell me what Michael Foucault has to say regarding postmodernism?
Michael Foucault on postmodernism. Sir, I don't know his views on this.
All right. You come from Nashik, right?
Yes, sir.
What is Nashik Prashasti?
Nashik is all called for
Nashik Prashasti.
Prashasti.
Okay.
Okay, there was something called Satwahan dynasty.
Satvahana dynasty, yes, sir.
Okay, so you don't know what is Nashik Prashasti?
Sir, Gautami Putra Satakarni,
Yes,
he had.
okay. What is it all about?
Sir, I am not able to
Okay.
recall right.
Okay.
Sir, I am not able to recall right.
Okay.
Do you believe that Ram was really a person existing in India at some point?
Sir, I consider myself, I cannot view that, because when
What do you consider yourself?
Sir, I am considering myself as a person only, but when I am brought up in that culture, my stories, my grandma's stories, and all those have impact on me. And at that point of time, I also believed that Ram was a person, because I tried to follow his culture, his values of a great person. But when I study history, when I try to look from a historical and scientific perspective as a student of sociology, I don't find any concrete evidence to justify the answer. So at this stage, there itself is a dilemma in my mind whether Ram was existing or not. But for myself, I would like to just follow some of his great values.
Okay, I heard that word concrete.
Uh-huh.
Let's shift to something else.
Yes,
There is
sir.
some kind of engineering background to you.
Yes, sir.
What is the difference between water and concrete?
Yes, sir.
What is it? And it's very important because it has got environmental aspect as well. Self-healing concrete.
Sir, I have heard that word, but I am not able to recall. If you allow me, then I would just like to do.
Hey, you can go ahead. I mean, no issues.
Sir, in concrete, till now the concrete which is facing problem is that after some point of time it develops cracks, and the reinforcement inside it is also affected, and the structure over a period of time becomes weak. So if there is a concept of self-healing concrete, then I think that there might be some chemicals in that concrete solution that the expansion, then contraction of the concrete due to other stresses, thermal stress, physical, mechanical stresses, biology, that will be reduced, and the concrete will itself be in minimum in cracks. That is that one. That is that one.
So you are explaining concrete, but you are not able to tell me what is the difference between mortar and concrete. Mortar is a cementing material. Concrete itself is a material of the building.
Yes, sir.
Anyways,
Sorry, sir.
what is this snail mail writing?
Sir, snail mail writing is a synonym which we use for letter writing. I chose the word snail mail writing because the communication which we do is at the pace of snail, slow communication.
But that's your hobby, you are saying.
Yes, sir.
So what do you do exactly?
Sir, whenever I am free or whenever I get bored, I just pick up a postcard and I just choose the contact in my contact list, and I just try to think where I met that person, and if any kind of emotions which develop regarding that person, I just write it down and just post it to him or her.
Okay, these days we are seeing lots of things happening between US and India, which can be called a strategic engagement. What is the impact of this growing proximity between these two on very important partner of India in Asia, that is Russia?
Sir, the growing bonhomie between India and USA, there were certain, as it was viewed that India is going to lose an old friend, because certainly USA and Russia.
Okay, before going to that, can you tell me what exactly happened between India and US in terms of strategic engagement in last couple of years?
Sir, in last couple of years with India and USA, first of all, we signed a civil nuclear US deal.
That's pretty old.
That's pretty. Sir, in last 2 years, then there was agreement recently Comcasa on exchanging the crypto information, and then there was logistic exchange of memorandum of agreement, where we tried to use the ports for logistical movement, disaster and humanitarian relief. And then later on, due to increasing trade deficit, USA has also tried to sell us the strategic weaponry to India. So USA is now also emerging as a supplier for us in our defense equipment trade. But if we look into details, still Russia is contributes to 70% of our export basket of defense.
Import basket, you know.
Sorry, 70% of import basket of our defense. And from bird's eye view, I find actually, sir, though there are growing strategic engagement between India and US, but still there are many points where India and US are at disagreement. So,
like for example?
Sir, like climate change.
Okay.
And also on visa issue, H1B visa issue, where the service sector, which is fueling our growth, the people personally in that country, they are due to H1B.
Correct. We are a little bit debating here.
Yes, sir.
I said, strategic environment. So let me reframe my question. Growing proximity between India and US in terms of strategic engagement, and for example, say Quad.
Yes, sir.
And in this framework, what is happening between India and Russia? Is there, some kind of development, at least beginning of trust deficit between India and Russia, number one, and what consequences will it have on the balance of power situation in Asia?
Sir, the growing strategic relation, I personally feel that there is no sign of trust deficit between India and Russia, because when our Prime Minister visited that country, it was said that India every बच्चा जानता है कि इंडिया का पुराना दोस्त कौन था. This was the sentence which was.
But that is rhetoric. Let's come down to
But if you see on ground, the CATSA sanctions were trying to be imposed, but India still purchased the S-400 Triumph missile system, which is the most powerful ballistic missile system from surface to air, and it is most stronger than US developed technology THAAD, terminal high area.
Is it because friendship between India and Russia, or is it because Russia is in economical trouble today and they have to anyway do something in terms of
Mhm.
reviving their economy. So they are selling the weapons.
Mhm.
So does that mean that trust deficit is not there?
Sir, there are signs of trust deficit if we try to see between the military exercise which was performed between India and Pakistan and Russia, but it was clearly stated that there is no trust deficit. If you try to see in Shanghai Cooperation Organization, we are trying to develop a platform where we are annual summits are conducted between India and Russia, where both try to engage. So I feel that there is no sign of trust deficit. If we see that though on the face of it, it appears at face value that Russia and Pakistan are engaging together. But if we see in long term, Russia also finds another Asian power, in which I would like to come to your second question, balance of power. Russia sees another person, that is China, as a threat because due to Shanghai Cooperation Organization, which are formed for resolving border dispute, China is emerging as a growing power in it, and Russia also needs a friend who can be there in this point of time. So if you see at larger picture of balance of power, now earlier when it was a unipolar then bipolar world, today I see that India is also emerging as another power. So in this Asia we are finding multiple poles of power like Russia, China, USA.
Can you talk something about your hobby, listening of songs?
Sir, I developed this hobby because when I was in school, in hostel, while going to home, my father used to play those songs in our car. So at that time I developed the hobby of listening to songs. But as I was in hostel, I was not able, I did not have any access to those means. So I tried to hum in myself, I tried to do some bathroom singing. Then later on when I came out of the school and college, I first time got a mobile phone. And it was made in China, that mobile phone. So I used to play a lot of songs on it, Hindi, Marathi, many type of songs. And then I tried to relate those songs to various moods of mine. Like when I used to get depressed, I used to listen some songs. When I was anxious, I used to listen some songs. So during this journey of preparation also, these songs helped me to.
What type of songs you like to listen more?
Sir, my choice of songs, it depends upon my mood. Because when it is early in the morning, I try to listen some Shankar Mahadevan songs which are peaceful, and also some Marathi song of Pandit Bhimsen Joshi, Maje Mahir Pandit. But when I get in afternoon, when I am tired and when I am trying to sleep for a short while, I just try to listen some instrumental music like some flute or etc. And when I get in the evening, some retro music, Kishore Kumar, Rafi, Lata, like this. And when I am in very much stress situation, I try to listen some relaxing music. And when I am depressed, when I am in sorrow mode, I try to listen some energetic song.
You don't like Western music?
Yes sir, I like Western music, but I deliberately did not mention it here because I had not went into its nitty-gritties. Means I like Western music too. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Anurag.
Yes.
Press the bell icon on the YouTube app and never miss another update from the Unique Academy. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to our channel. Stay tuned